It looks like Boston College is getting Thomas Castellanos back, and that's just the boost that they need.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. So we get some big injury updates today. We're going to talk about Tommy Castellanos and his potential availability for Saturday's game against Virginia. We're going to look about their flat starts and some of the comments Bill O'Brien made on Tuesday about how the alumni faithful and some of the other things going on might have impacted that. And finally, we'll get into some recruiting news as BC has some good news coming down the pike. We'll get into all of that on today's show. Now, the big news yesterday, if you listen to yesterday's show, I spoke about how important it was that Tommy Castellanos return for this game against UVA. The spread in the game had continued to eke more and more towards the Who's, as there was no news about whether he was going to play or not. Well, Tuesday, the media got their first glimpse into practice this week, and who was out there? But good old number one. Tommy Castellanos was out there, according to multiple reports online. He was looking good, throwing and playing with the first team. And that all signs point to he's going to play on Saturday. This is huge. We did not know, and we still do not know, what the official diagnosis is. Of course, I know you guys get frustrated about it, but in college sports, right now, they don't have to tell you in the ACC because the ACC doesn't have injury reports. So they didn't just say, I don't know, and you're going to have to, we get to all have to deal with it. So whatever it was that kept him out last week, it looks like he's going to play this week. How does this impact Boston College? Well, you get your superstar on offense back. You may not call him a superstar, star, whatever you want to call him. He is so critical to this offense, and what he can do to get your offense going when it really needs to is so critical. I mean, just look at the last couple of games. It's been a while. It's been tough for BC to move the ball consistently at times. We can easily, you can discredit the Michigan State game because of the weather, right? You can say it was rainy, it was gross. Get that, right? You didn't play last week. He didn't play last week. So you look back at all the other games he played against. He threw for 200 plus yards against Missouri. Yes, he also had an interception in there. That wasn't good. But he has to play against Florida State, and he controlled the clock and he controlled that offense. That's what they need. You know, you really want to see BC, do what they need to do on offense. And as much as I love Grayson James, Tommy Castellanos does he brings your offense to a whole other level. And he's dangerous. He can, he's a winner. We've watched it over and over and over again. Every game that you have, something that struggles, like the Mizzou game, you can then point to Michigan State where he makes a play like that pass to Lewis Bond, or, the big plays he made against Florida State. He does this over and over and over again. And the part that makes him so challenging is that his arm is getting better. 10 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. We'd kill for that last year. And he's doing it because he's not making as many mistakes as he used to. So this is huge news. This should really change the outcome in the projections for this game against against the Who's or Cavs, whatever you want to call them. Because Boston College now has their ace in the hole. And Bill O'Brien, after practice, and you get the typical coach response where he said, he looked okay, and we have 2 quarterbacks, which is great. And, Tommy, he didn't give a full answer. He just kind of did what you would expect a coach to do. Now, when Jeff Hafley was head coach, you were able to hide because there was no practice. And I think he thought that would be an advantage if you left a guy out and you never knew if he was going to play or not, and he'd never answer it. But now with practices being open, you're able to kind of see. And you know what? It is what it is in terms of whether it's an advantage or not. So O'Brien hasn't officially said Thomas Castellanos is going to be the quarterback, but you read the reports, from everyone who was at practice this week, and it sounds like it. I mean, he's, playing with the first team, he's throwing, it sounds like that's going to be the case. And we haven't seen a weather report yet. Hopefully it's nice. Hopefully get some nice, crisp fall weather for this game. Not a ton of rain again or anything like that. But this should be a really good matchup of two quarterbacks that are kind of similar. Anthony Calandria of Virginia and Tommy Castellanos. Both mobile. We didn't get to see Calandria last year because Tony Muskett was the quarterback and he had that, he had like one big play. But this should be a fun matchup for the two quarterbacks. These are two mobile quarterbacks that can move the ball with their feet along with their arm. And I think what I really am, what I'm hoping for is that Castellanos is completely healthy because you need him to do everything that he does, whether it's throwing, running, that's all he needs to do. And I truly believe when he plays against a team like Virginia, he should be able to. I feel like BC should be able to put up some points. If Wake Forest, I know some folks think they're a really good offense, Hackback Meyer and all that stuff, but if they could put up points, BC should be able to put up points. And people point to some of the games that they played against. I mean, they were going to put up 30 plus points against Florida State. They put up 50 plus points against Duquesne. They put up 21 points against, Missouri. The only game that they really had was a rain game and a game that Grayson James played in. This should be a get right game for BC. This should be a game where Castellanos should be able to score some points. I'm just saying that right now. But again, he has not been officially named the starter. If you look at the depth chart, which I know, if you're a fan of my work, you know that the depth chart is not worth the paper that it's printed on. It's been like a daily joke from each coach. Like no coach, because they're not forced to do it, they don't update it. Like I bet you, and I don't even have it in front of me right now, but I bet you if I pulled it up, Sam Candotti is listed as the starting punter. Let me pull it up right now because they just don't care. It doesn't help them at all. Yeah, Sam Candotti is listed as the starting punter, and he's not even punting anymore. I don't know where he is. I haven't seen him. So that tells you how valuable that is. But if you really want to look at that and have your thoughts on that, Tommy Castellanos is listed as the starting quarterback. I again don't put any thought into that. Now on Wednesday, there's the Zoom call. Maybe Bill O'Brien will talk more about it. I bet you he won't. Again, he's very savvy with the media. He knows what to say and what not to say. I think everyone assumes that Tommy Castellanos is going to play, and I'm sure Virginia assumes he's going to play. I would be stunned if Grayson James is starting on Saturday, just at this point, based off of what I've seen, the pictures. I mean, BC's not even hiding it. They had pictures up on their Instagram, and there's Castellanos throwing. So I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. Now, in our second segment, Bill O'Brien did meet with the media on Tuesday. He also had some interesting comments about this slow start, not from his team, but also slow starts from the fans. We'll get into what he meant by that in just a moment. I love going to sports, theater, music, you name it. I love going to concerts. It's all great for me. And you know who I use? I use Game Time. Game Time is a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Speaking of Virginia, last time I went to a BC game last year, I used Game Time to get my seats, and it was for the Virginia game. It was terrible weather. I made sure that I got tickets underneath one of those awnings. It was best. It was wet and kind of dreary. I had my kids with me. Game Time took care of that. I knew exactly where I was going to sit because of their seat finder option. It was beautiful. Now, all you got to do is download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. This is Locked On Boston College. I'm your host, AJ Black. If you're not already done so, go over to Eagle Insider. It's part of the 24/7 network. I've had I've had my site over there for almost 3 years now. And there's great work over there by myself, Mitchell Wolf, BC Hockey Blogger. There's all sorts of great BC stuff. I hope you check that out. And If you haven't already done so, there's no Locked On Who's, unfortunately, on Locked On, but check out Locked On ACC if you want to get some good ACC discussion. They'll be having their Locked On ACC squad that usually drops to my podcast feed. I'm never part of it, unfortunately, because I got to put my kids to bed when they record. They record at the worst times. I want them to record at a different time so I can be on that show too. But check out the Locked On ACC squad wherever you get your podcasts. Now, on Tuesday, Bill O'Brien also had some interesting comments about the atmosphere at BC. One of the reporters asked him about Bill O'Brien about the slow starts because both against Michigan State and Western Kentucky, BC football has really come off kind of slow. Like, they've fallen behind early, they've had to battle back. And they asked him about what is it about it that has to avoid these slow starts. And here's his comments. I'm going to credit Trevor Haas from the Herald for transcribing this. He said, "Here at home, we're going to have better music. Let's get the crowd in here earlier. The stadium was empty. We need juice, and our players need to bring the energy. It's everybody working together. Get a crowd in there earlier. Get the music earlier. Better. There was like a song with violin. We're getting ready to play a football game. So I'm going to take charge of that pregame music at BC. Let's get the fans in there a little bit earlier, and most importantly, let's get our team bringing more juice and being ready to get right from the start." So there's a few different things here that I want to address. And the first, let's talk about his let's do the fun stuff first. His music thing. Now, I had to tell you, being able to go to practices this summer, you get to hear the music that they play. And it's a lot of what you might expect from a football practice, tons of hip hop music, like you name it, like Drake, Rick Ross, Meek Mill, you know, a little bit of Kanye West. You got a whole bunch of different rap artists out there. And then you have smattered in there the songs you definitely know Bill O'Brien picked. If you've been to a BC football game, you've heard the one that he plays all the time at practice, which is Kickstart My Heart by Motley Crue. He played it all. I never heard this. I mean, I don't listen to 80s music, 80s rock. I don't care for hair metal. But Kickstart My Heart, he played it like since I believe since the spring. Every practice I'm there, at least once or twice, potentially twice at practice. I hear it. It's got to be his favorite song. But you hear Pantera in there. He plays Walk all the time. There's he plays Metallica. There is a Sevenfold, Avenged Sevenfold. There's a song by them. It sounds just like Metallica too. He plays a whole bunch of like rock songs, and it's not Bruce Springsteen like Halfley. I promise you that. So I'm really interested to see what he picks for music because what he picks might be like what my dad thinks. And believe me, I'm not a young chicken, but my dad would listen to more of the classical rock. And I'm not sure it really jives with A, the players, and B, the students, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm really interested to see what Bill O'Brien picks for music. But I agree with him. Like sometimes when you're in the stadium, the music choices are really random at points. Like I get it. Build Me a Buttercup was once a big thing at BC, but like, why? Why? What is it? That song is like the most not football at all song. Like you could do current songs and older songs, like that's fine. But why Build Me a Buttercup? I don't get it. It's not a football song. It's not something that's like a stadium song. Uh, and there's other songs that they pick too that are, and I'm trying to think of what the violin song he's mentioning is, and I hope obviously it's not shipping out to Boston because he plays that one at practice all the time too. But like I agree, like the music choices have been bad. I'm not going to complain about the sound. I went last week as a fan, as I told you guys, and it's loud. It's very, very loud. But that's what football. Like my wife was even saying it. My wife was there with our kids, and like that's what a football game's like. That's what a football game's supposed to be like. It's supposed to be loud. Alumni Stadium for years has never been loud, and it's loud now. And it's musically, it's loud. And at the end of the game, it was loud. The fans were loud. I have no problem with that. I think that's fine. It's whatever is in between. Like get like some like good music. And if it's the Guns N' Roses song, Welcome to the Jungle. Like if that's what you need, play that. I'm sure there's a bunch that they played at the Patriots, and like this current music too. Like, go for it, have fun with some of the current stuff too. They were playing Kendrick Lamar for a while, and I know some of you guys hate that. I thought it was cool, but that's all stuff too. The other piece of this comment that he brings up is saying the fans need to get in there early. And Bill, I love you as a coach, but getting fans into Alumni Stadium is a problem that has been haunting BC since the dawn of time. When I was there as a student, when Tom O'Brien was there, it was the exact same issue. It was the same exact issue under Jeff Jagodzinski. It was the same exact issue under Steve Adazio. It's been going on forever. BC and there's a reason why this happens. And the only person, well, there's two people they can blame that you can blame for this is Boston College and the freaking neighbors in Newton. Fans pay thousands of dollars for those tailgating spots. And they get, was it 3-4 hours? When you go to any other Power 5 school, that is a joke. And so these fans that get, 4 hours a week, 4 hours a game, 6 times a year for whatever ungodly amount of money they spend, they want to milk that for every minute that they are there. And I don't blame them for that. I was there early. It was dead in there. I get it. But that is a big issue. And unless Bill O'Brien can figure out a way to get the neighbors to back off of these tailgating hours, or the Boston police, I don't know who's doing it. I've always heard neighbors, but whatever it is, this is never going to change. You can get excited about it. It's never going to change for a 12 o'clock noon game, especially during Parents' Weekend. Like Parents' Weekend, it's not a Friday night game. I guarantee you, if he has this speech going for the Louisville game in a couple of weeks, that's a Friday night. The Louisville game, when they enter, is going to be nuts because it's a Friday night. They're going to get there. The people are going to be all lubed up. It'll be great. But those 12 o'clock noon games, that's what happens. It's what happens. And, if you could get tailgating to go on longer and allow it to go on longer, fans will bail on it faster so they can go to the game. But when you have this like little tiny amount of tailgating that you can do, that's what the fans are going to do. It's a social experience. I'm sorry, but that's what it is. And I agree that you want to get the fans in there to start going crazy early, but that's the reality. The other reality is, again, I don't know how you fix this, but everything getting into Alumni Stadium takes forever. It's just so slow. Game ops is slow. Getting through the line slow. Getting into the stadium itself is slow. Going up the stairs is slow. It's, if you want to get in the game, it's just tough. It takes forever. So again, all these things kind of mesh together to make it hard to get to the game on time and early. And I get his point. Like you want to come out of that, with the fire going and everything, and the place to be bedlam. That is the ideal experience. But BC's got to figure out some things to fix here, and I'm not sure they can do it. We'll have to wait and see. You could say winning is going to fix all that. I'm not sure it would. I've been a season ticket holder when BC was a top 25 team, and this issue was going on when there was Matt Ryan there. There was issues with this when the team was good. It's just what it is. And hopefully he figures that out. And I credit Bill O'Brien for a lot of things. I think if there's any one guy that maybe could somehow pull some magic out to figure something out to fix this issue, it's him and his staff. I would love to see that happen. You build him a freaking statue if that's what happens. Like, that would be so cool. Now, in our final segment, I'm going to wrap things up with a little taste of what's going on with recruiting. I'll get into all that in just a moment. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Now, on these FanDuel discussions I've had with you over the last couple of weeks, one thing that I have been consistent about is fading on the New England Patriots. Whatever it is, whether it's their points per game or the spread, I'm telling you to go against whatever it is. But man, they're playing the Dolphins this week, and that team looks as bad as the Pats. So I'm not even sure what I'm going to tell you for this one. I'd love to hear what you have to think. Tell me in the comments, would you take the Patriots or would you go with the Dolphins? Now, you can do your own research and then get yourself started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. This is Locked On Boston College. I'm your host, AJ Black, and we are wrapping things up here on Locked On BC. When you're done with this, check out Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin. There's so much going on. The Pac-12 is expanding. I don't think Gonzaga is going to have a football team, but they just added them. There's a new potential different proposal for a brand new football league. There's all sorts of crazy stuff, and he's got it all covered on Locked On College Football, wherever you get your podcasts. Now, when you're in the midst of a football season, especially when you're covering Boston College, one thing you don't expect is a lot of recruiting news. If you know the kind of ebbs and flows of BC football, you know that the most of the recruiting and commitments happen in the offseason. Usually it's that May and June month that they get, a major chunk of their recruits. But on Monday, Jonathan DiBiaso tweeted twice that BC has landed a commitment. And we got some kind of teases of what it is. And I'm going to tell you a few things because you guys know I work for 24/7. I know who they are. And I'm not going to spoil it for the kids. That it's not to tease you guys or say, I know it. I want to talk about it, but I also don't want to ruin the kids' moment. When it's a high school student, I don't want to, they've worked so hard for this kind of stuff. I don't want to ruin it. They're two local kids, and they're not of this upcoming class. And I will tell you 3 players that it is not. You guys can play your own little game of sleuth. It's not U-Haul, so it's not Leniel Hall, who's an offensive lineman, class of 26 from Massachusetts. It is not Marky Mark Walbridge. It's Marky Walbridge, but he's another offensive lineman. It's not either of those two. And I know a lot of people love Dominic Funk. It's not him either. That's what I'm going to say there. It is a class of 26 kid, local, and it is a class of 27 kid, local. And I think the reason I bring this up, and it's not to tease you that I know who the players are, it's again showing that Bill O'Brien continues to kill it with local recruits. Now, his philosophy, I think, is he's not going to offer every single local recruit. Look at Thomas Brown. This is an offensive lineman from Chelmsford. He's a wrestling champion. A guy I've been watching. He's visited BC. He had an offer from Jeff Halfley. He just committed to Villanova. And it's because I don't think BC really wanted him. And it's not a knock on the kid. It's just you can't take every kid that's out there. So I don't think BC is just going to haphazardly pick every kid in Massachusetts or the New England area. But when they're targeting their kids, in these recruits moving forward, they're landing them at a much higher clip than we've seen in years past. So you have a 26, you have a 27. You've added a whole bunch of other 26s. And who does this live and die with? It's Jonathan DiBiaso. The quarterback's coach, formerly a quarterback and Gatorade All-American. I'm telling you, this guy is a game changer for local recruiting. And he continues to make his mark with some of these commitments. They all, the kids, when they commit and they talk to me for these articles, they all talk about how much they like Dibs. He's doing a great job out there. Now, let's wrap things up here. We have 2 more shows this week before we actually have a post-game show on Saturday. So actually 3 post shows this week. We have on Thursday, I'm going to have a guest Virginia podcaster, excuse me. I'll actually be on their podcast as well. On Friday, we got Mitchell Wolf of Eagle Insider back. We'll do our predictions. We'll hear all about his thoughts, who he thinks is going to win, anything else going on there. And Saturday, our postcast on Locked On Boston, who I've seen a bunch of you subscribe to, and I hope more of you find Locked On Boston so you don't miss those postcast episodes because those are a lot of fun to do. So check all those out. And check out my work on Eagle Insider. And find me on Twitter at AJBlack247. Thank you all so much for following all of what we do here at Locked On BC. It does mean a lot for me to have such great listeners like yourself out there. And I hope to see you again for tomorrow's episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.